So why did I make the video? Because I want you to go out and shoot macro in the forest, especially when the temperatures are extremely low. Hey, it's Jens. Welcome to this winter macro photography special. Today we want to focus on macro photography in the winter month, especially on what to shoot. I have brought some examples as inspiration for you what to shoot in the cold days. Macro photography in the winter can be pretty tough, especially in Germany, because the winter is not that cold anymore. We just had one day with -9 degrees and I think the rest was plus degrees and rain. And as there are almost no insects left, there's not much left to photograph. So my favorite days to photograph is when it's as cold as possible. The colder the better. Because then every ordinary object like a flower or a stone may look pretty amazing in the macro perspective. Even though it was -9 degrees on that day or that night where I took the macro images of today's video, I really had to get up very early because the sun was about to burn all those beautiful ice crystals. When it's really cold, normally my first recommendation for you would be to mix water with dishwashing liquid and glycerin and try frozen soap bubbles. I did some frozen soap bubbles that morning, but the results were pretty average and not as good as the bubbles I shot in the last year. So I'd like to skip that topic and go directly with you into the forest. The good thing about winter macro photography is that you can shoot all those boring items from the summer again, but now they just look a lot better, like leaves or flowers. If they got this icy ice crystal coating, those just look super amazing in the macro or in the micro perspective. For example, that rose looks pretty average, pretty ordinary. When we get closer, we can see those nice ice crystals, pretty okay. When you want to remove the background, you just have to add more light with your flash and that's it. Next example, that frozen stone. Looks pretty boring, but when we get closer, we will find countless unique areas with very interesting structures. When you see my other macro winter videos, you probably know that I'm a big fan of spiderwebs. Spiderwebs are really a perfect subject for macro photography. In the morning you may have droplets and you can create some incredible effects with the sunlight in the background, for example. And in the winter you have icicles again. Maybe it's microscopic icicles or ice crystals. Anyway, it looks super amazing. The rest of the upcoming images is just shot with a 90mm of Sony 1:1 2.8 macro lens. No flash diffuser. And why? Because then we have to get a little more creative to develop, to find something in the forest. I have used open aperture 2.8 and tried to create some nice bokeh effect. There were a few snails and some mushrooms, especially those Judas ear mushrooms, also known as wood ear mushrooms, are a pretty amazing object to photograph. Those ear mushrooms do not only look like ears, they are also extremely healthy and pretty delicious. For this blue cold winter effect, I've just switched the white balance inside my camera, so there's no post-processing needed. But then in Lightroom I did some color corrections to kind of remove this winter effect. What is your favorite, the winter look or the ordinary forest look? Maybe one more interesting fact about the wood ear mushroom. This is one of a few mushrooms which can survive frost. So when you collect them, even after frost in very cold weather, the consistency will be fine. Those mushrooms is a great addition for soups and salads, or can also be combined with other mushrooms like those oysters. It's awesome. You can take some interesting images in the forest and you'll have an awesome meal for free. The next object I found was again a mushroom, an orange oyster mushroom. Unfortunately, this mushroom is not edible, but it looks super beautiful and it was covered with snow. So again, I had the chance to take some pretty cool images in the snow. Here a few more examples and angles how to photograph mushrooms, especially an angle from the bottom for me personally works best. If you don't find any mushrooms, it's actually no problem, because when it's that cold, you can photograph anything. Just play with light, with the sunlight, angle and the bokeh. Try to use a short focus distance and get sure that there are some ice crystals or ice reflections in the background, so that just the image is a play of light. Even though when the subject is pretty boring, like bark or moss, the bokeh and the ice crystals will do the rest. Or you could just misfocus. Just blur the image and move the camera around till you find some nice reflections and the image is done. Of course, there's no real subject on your image, but you're probably making some abstract art. Then there were some puddles in the forest, which also might look pretty boring, but you should really take a closer look. Maybe you find something interesting. Even with those leaves, I could make a pretty acceptable images because there was some frozen bubbles inside. Pretty cool. And I want to show you an example with a flash and flash diffuser and without flash, just with diffuse sunlight. Normally the flash and the flash diffuser makes a super soft, super high detail image, but especially on ice, it makes no real sense. There was not much sunlight on that day, so I had to work with a slightly higher ISO as normal, but as I use topaz denoise for post-processing to reduce the noise, it's perfect. But for those images, I was like with my knees in the almost frozen water to photograph those frozen puddles, and the results were awful. So I had to remove the flash and the results were a lot better. Would a flash without diffuser work? Yes, but depending on the focus distance, the lens might block the light coming from the flash and then you have a shadow on the subject. So for me, my personal favorite image was just with diffuse sunlight. So why did I make the video? Because I want you to go out and shoot macro in the forest, especially when the temperatures are extremely low. I hope you enjoyed the video, stay healthy and let's pray for really cold nights. See you in the next.